There are spaces you enter where everything shifts, even though you haven't said a word. Some people feel unsettled around you, not because you've done anything wrong, but because your light exposes things they've kept in the dark. If you've ever questioned why you seem too intense for some people but feel divine to others, this message is for the soul that's been shrinking itself just to fit into places it was meant to stand out in. There are spirits who enter a room and shake the energy without uttering a sound. You might be one of them. You might notice sideways glances filled with confusion, words that carry quiet dismissal or silence that feels louder than noise. And you've probably asked yourself, why do some people distance themselves when all I did was show up? Why does my presence feel overwhelming to people who barely even know me? It's because your spirit introduces honesty where lies have lived comfortably. You're not loud, but there's something powerful about you. You don't need to argue to be felt. Your spirit speaks before you do. Some people have been trapped in smallness for so long that your natural glow makes them squint. People who have worn masks so long they've forgotten they're pretending until your grounded presence reminds them. And they resist, not because you're wrong, but because you're real. When you walk with quiet strength, when your peace is born from struggles you've already overcome, when your happiness isn't put on for show but earned through long nights and hard truths, you shake the ground under anything built on lies. So people pull away, they react to your energy with distance, polite jealousy, fake smiles, or even criticism wrapped in concern. But what they're really doing is trying to protect themselves from the reflection you carry. You're not just another person, you're a frequency, a reminder, a living truth that silently whispers to every dishonest part of someone's life. Stop hiding. It's time to be seen. And not everyone is ready to be seen. Some are still trying to live in their hiding places. Some are still surviving by keeping their own light dim. So when they see yours, proud and uncovered, it feels like a betrayal of what they've convinced themselves was necessary. They pull back, not because you hurt them, but because just by being you, you prove they never had to shrink in the first place. You are living proof that healing is real, that peace is possible after pain, that joy can return even after the storm. And for someone who's never allowed themselves to believe that, it's scary. Strong spirits don't ask for permission, they don't beg to be included, they don't make themselves smaller to stay in shallow spaces. So naturally, people resist, not because your energy is harmful, but because it's honest. And truth always unsettles what's been faking it. You don't speak to be noticed or move to be applauded, but the moment you walk into a space, everything changes. Conversations slow down, eyes shift, some get nervous without understanding why. You've seen it, the way people get quiet, the space that suddenly feels heavy, the emotional gap people keep even when all you've done is shown up. You've probably wondered if you're too much or maybe not enough, but the truth is sacred and much simpler. Your presence is a mirror, and many people have spent their whole lives avoiding their own reflection. There is something about you that brings calm into the noise. You carry a type of awareness that doesn't need to shout. It hums, it pulses, it glows through your skin and slides into the silence like a breeze through leaves. You don't need words to be understood. Your energy has its own language. It speaks to the truth inside other people. And not everyone is ready to listen. You walk into rooms not to take up space, but to center it. People begin to feel their real emotions in your stillness. Those hiding behind polished performances begin to feel uncovered, not because you exposed them, but because your authenticity gently shines light into places they forgot were there. And in that moment, when something inside them is stirred, they have to choose. Either lean into the awakening your energy brings or pull back and defend the illusion they've built. Even in silence, the whole room feels you. You're not trying to force anything. Your soul just brings order where there was none. You hold wisdom that doesn't come from books, but from surviving the fire and learning to breathe in the smoke. You carry power shaped not by resistance, but by surrender to truth. And people sense it. They feel what you've walked through without you having to say a single word. They feel the things you've forgiven, the pain you've overcome, the peace you've created. You become a reminder of what they still need to face. It's not your voice that shakes them, it's your calm. It's the way your eyes look too deep and your silence listens too hard. You're not here to entertain, you're not here to mix in or tone yourself down for comfort. You were built to hold a kind of energy that makes people remember their own. So even when your mouth doesn't move, your presence speaks. It speaks to the parts people forgot existed, the child within them who still wishes, the grief they never voiced, the quiet hopes they once had but buried deep. You don't ask people to think, you simply make them feel. You don't force anyone to reflect. Your quiet makes them pause. You don't beg for attention. Your truth attracts it. You carry a depth that cannot be imitated, and real depth always makes people think. It makes them feel. It makes them pause. But not everyone is ready for that. Not everyone is ready to feel something real. Not everyone is prepared to face themselves in front of someone who already has. You don't shout. You don't beg to be seen. But when you walk in, heads turn. The atmosphere changes. Conversations shift. Not because you're doing too much, but because you're not performing at all. You're grounded in your truth, and for people who live on the surface, that's jarring. You are living proof that real doesn't have to be loud, that powerful doesn't have to be aggressive. You don't crave attention, you don't trade your soul for approval. You walk away from anything that costs your peace, even if it means walking alone. And that kind of quiet strength rattles people who need applause to feel like they matter. You're not intense. You're just steady. And in a world where people bend and twist to fit in, your refusal to do so is revolutionary. You hear what's not spoken, you sense what others hide, you feel energy before words are ever formed. People notice that. They know you're not someone who can be fooled, that you see through smiles, through roles, through the polished version they show to the world, and so they back off. Or they try to discredit you, or they call you difficult, but what they mean is, you can't be tricked, you can't be played, you can't be swayed by shallow charm or bright distractions. Realness takes courage, it demands honesty, and truth, when it shows up, slices through the fake, the shallow, the empty. When you live in that truth, when you become the blade, those who are not ready to cut ties with their masks will feel your presence like a threat, not because you've harmed them, but because your light shines on the places they hoped would stay hidden. You're not intimidating because you're loud, harsh, or boastful. You're intimidating because you don't need to be. Your spirit stands tall even in silence. Your integrity echoes louder than any show. Your energy confronts without ever needing force. You're not here to compete. You're here to exist fully. And that, in itself, is more powerful than any fake image someone could put on. You don't raise your voice to be noticed. You don't take up space to prove anything. You just arrive and the room knows it. The atmosphere shifts slightly, not because you're loud, but because your presence is undeniable. Your soul moves ahead of you, calm, steady, grounded. And in a world addicted to distraction, your stillness is thunder. You hold peace, not because life was easy on you, but because you learned how to find silence in the middle of chaos. Because you chose calm when everything screamed. You became peace by refusing to become like the pain that tried to destroy you. You didn't shut down. You healed. You didn't run away. You transformed. And now people aren't sure what to make of you. They don't understand how you can be so soft yet so firm, so kind yet so unshakable, so grounded yet so free. They carry a calm that isn't passive. It's the result of deep inner work, long sleepless nights, tears cried in silence, and prayers whispered in shaky breaths. That kind of calm, the kind you earn, not borrow, shakes everything that depends on restlessness. People who thrive on conflict feel uneasy around you. Those who spread gossip, use silence to manipulate, or live off drama find no place to land in your energy. They can't provoke you, they can't trap you, they can't pull you into their chaos because you no longer serve confusion. You witness it, acknowledge it, and move away. And walking away without defending yourself, without fury, without putting on a show, shakes them. Your departure is too clean, your boundaries are too strong, and your refusal to match their energy leaves them staring at the emptiness of their own noise. Your peace is more than calm, it's strength. It declares, I know who I am, I know what I won't allow, I understand the worth of my energy and what it costs to have me present. In a world full of people performing, pretending to be successful, faking relationships, acting like they've healed, you are just being. That realness cuts through false appearances. It brings out what others try to bury under busyness, ego, and distractions. You become a reflection for the unsettled. When they see you, they're forced to notice where they've left pieces of themselves behind. Your peace reveals their unrest. Your silence brings out their noise. Your joy, unearned, natural, reminds them that true peace can't be imitated. And what they're truly reacting to isn't you. It's the fact that they must face themselves. You aren't their enemy. You're living proof that a different path exists, that healing is possible, that peace is real. But this peace, real peace, can't be worn like an outfit. It has to be grown. It has to be built. And to build it, you must tear down everything false. You unsettle others because your peace is rooted in truth. It doesn't react, it doesn't chase, it doesn't plead or try to prove anything, it just stays. You don't need to clap back, to correct, or to persuade anyone. You don't have to explain your heart to someone who chooses not to understand it. You simply breathe, you live, and in doing so, you shift the room, you change the energy, you remind those in pain that stillness is possible. You show the restless that chaos isn't where they have to live. You hold a peace that speaks loudly without making a sound, one that challenges without starting a fight, one that speaks without using words. That peace, its power, it's rare, it can't be bought, it can't be borrowed, and it surely can't be broken. It just exists. And that, more than anything else, is what unsettles the storm. There is a strange, quiet space that follows someone like you, someone who knows their worth but doesn't beg to be noticed, someone who speaks truths others aren't ready to hear. You walk through life not trying to perform, but simply being present. And because of that, you often find yourself misunderstood, not because you aren't clear, but because you are too clear. Not because you're cold, but because your warmth is controlled and burns quietly. You don't fit into boxes made for the ordinary, and so people often misread, misjudge, or mislabel you. Not because of who you are, but because they haven't fully met themselves yet. When people see you, something stirs in them, a reflection maybe, a glimpse of what they could become if they dared to break their own cycles. You carry yourself with a gentle strength that doesn't need to shout, a calm that isn't empty, and that confuses people. Society has taught them to see power as loudness, presence as performance, leadership as control, but you lead by simply existing. You influence by being. That baffles those who only notice worth when it's loud. You're not simple to understand. You don't give everything away when you arrive. You don't open every door for everyone. You don't hand out parts of yourself like you're inviting people to a show. You move like deep water, layered, quiet, and powerful. And those who only swim in shallow waters will never understand your waves. They'll misread your silence as coldness. They'll call your stillness pride. They'll see your wisdom and call it distance. But underneath all that confusion lies something else: respect. They may not say it, they may not even recognize it, but when you speak, they pause. When you act, they pay attention. When you rise, they feel it, because even if they don't understand you, they can't deny your presence. They may try to explain you away, but part of them knows you've done the work, that you carry pain without bitterness, that you've walked through fire and came out formed, not broken. You don't shout your knowledge. You don't fight to be right. You live in line with your truth. And that rattles people who are still pretending. You don't water yourself down to be easier to accept. You don't change to be liked. You'd rather walk alone with honesty than be surrounded by lies. That level of truth, that pure loyalty to your own soul, demands a deeper respect. Not loud applause, but real reverence. A kind of silent honor that doesn't need to be said to be felt. They may not invite you everywhere, but they remember your presence when they're lost. They might not understand your boundaries, but they know not to push them. They might never admit that you inspire them, but they will try to copy your calm. You may not be the loudest voice in the room, but when everything quiets down, your words are the ones that remain. You might not always agree with everyone, but you're the one who stands firm in what matters. And eventually, even those who misread you will come to respect you, not because you change to fit in, but because you never change to fit anyone. You move through life with a deep awareness of who you are. You speak with the confidence that only survival teaches. You love with the wisdom of someone who knows just how much love can cost. And yes, it might leave you feeling isolated. It might confuse those who look for simplicity in others. But your truth stays whole. You weren't made to be easy to explain. You were meant to be felt, experienced, remembered, misunderstood maybe, but never mistaken for anything less than solid, rare, and deeply worthy of respect. When you walk into a room, you don't disappear. You change the atmosphere without even trying. Your energy doesn't push itself forward, but it's impossible to ignore. It doesn't ask to be noticed. It speaks in your silence, in how your eyes see through masks, in how your presence wakes something ancient inside people. The part they've buried, the part that wants to grow, or the part that fears being seen. You don't stay at the surface. You go right to the soul. And for some people, that's too intense, too fast. But for others, it's exactly what they've been needing. You simply existing pushes others to face what they've kept still. Without saying a word, you become a reflection, a mirror that reveals truth. A mirror that shows people who they really are without the roles they play. Not everyone's ready for that. Some will step toward you, shaking but ready to confront themselves. They'll grow, not because you told them to, but because your energy gives them permission to believe they can. You wake up the desire in them to be real, to be brave, to be whole. But others, they'll run. Not because you harmed them, but because your completeness threatens the lies they've gotten used to. Your light uncovers where they've settled in darkness. Your strength shakes the part of them still trapped in fear. You become a storm to those who've only known silence. And rather than face it, they back off, they disappear. They minimize your role in their lives, not because of who you are, but because they aren't ready to become who they need to be to stand beside you. And you need to know that isn't about pride, it's not about ego, it's not about feeling better than anyone, it's about being aligned with truth. And truth by nature shakes things. You don't entertain what's fake, you don't hold space for what's shallow, you don't chase what's uncertain, you walk with purpose, with depth, with passion, and those who can't meet you there, those still holding on to comfort, illusions, or old stories, they'll choose to leave instead of grow. But don't shrink for them. Don't quiet your spirit just to make others stay. You weren't created to be easy for everyone to accept. You were meant to spark change. You are the choice, the wake-up call, the reminder, and how people respond isn't your responsibility, it's their journey. Some will grow because of you, others will retreat, but either way you called them higher. Either way you left an impression that won't fade. And what a gift that is, to be someone who helps others remember who they could be, to be the one who makes them question their fears, to be the one who interrupts the ordinary with a glimpse of something more. You may be misunderstood, you might be called too much, you might be left behind by those not ready to change, but your presence, that's the power, that's the challenge, that's the lesson. And even those who walk away will always remember the moment they met someone who made them think, who made them feel, who made them wonder if maybe, just maybe, they were meant for more too.